we can just see, I can't hear, and there's Kurt Russell and Kevin Jarre. Kevin Jarre's the director, he wrote the script. Kurt starts to do this Hollywood fight, you know, he's like, you know, like that. And I can see Kevin Jarre goes, no. He goes, and I went, oh, and I knew, I could tell, I'm going, this is genius because Wyatt Earp was a fisticuffs guy. He was he refereed fight. He was a fighter, fight guy. And so that he would do Queensberry is just fabulous, okay? And so then Kurt would go, no, and like that. And he would do it like that. And so they took a break. And so Kevin Jarre comes walking over to say hi to Jeff. And he sits down, and I look over, and I took a photo. Uh-huh. He was fired that night.
Hi, I'm Rob Word. Welcome to A Word on Westerns, and we have a true historian today. He's going to talk about the True West because that's his magazine. It's Bob Boze Bell, who is continuing to generate excitement and thrills and historical accuracy about the West. Bob, welcome to my hotel room.
This is great. I love talking about authenticity in Westerns. I'm a nut about it, you know. In fact, in my house, if I stop at a Western, when my family was all there, my kids and my wife, and I look at them, they look at me, and they say, "You're staying," they leave because I'm terrible. Because I'm the guy that yells out, you know, they didn't have saddles like that in 1872. But I do that in the theater too, and I can clear a theater, okay? Because I'm just crazy about getting it right. You know, if you're going to go to the trouble, why not make it right? I think you're from that school.
Well,
too.
in the earlier Westerns, like the classic John Ford films, he didn't care about the authenticity of the guns, or even if you look at My Darling Clementine, the Wyatt Earp story, and it's based on the Stewart and Lake book, but you've got Doc Holliday dying at the OK Corral.
Well, and they filmed Tombstone in Monument Valley. That's a little offensive.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Beautiful place.
And that I think you've established there that there's a rub for us purists, okay? And in Kevin Costner's new 4-part mega film, Horizon.
I call it a mini-series, and this is the marketing flaw with that. Yeah. They sold that as a Kevin Costner movie.
I know.
And everybody was just talking about his own money is in it.
$38 million.
That's not the way to sell it.
No.
My young son said, "Dad, this is Game of Thrones out west. It's a multi-character story that's going to last a lot of episodes." And so if they'd sold it as a 12-hour miniseries and you get to see the first 3 hours in the theaters, it might have been approached differently because people were going, Kevin's not even in it until the second hour.
Yeah.
Well,
that's just how they say
part 2, you know, episode 2.
By the way, I take back the punk comment. That's pretty brilliant, young man. No, that is true.
Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense.
I saw it in the theaters twice because it was magnificent. And I think that's what Kevin wanted people to do, is to see it and experience it in the theater. Movies are a communal thing where if you get to see the magnificent West as he showed in that film, and the tension and the characters are so great, but they were just being introduced. That should have been
part of a miniseries. You're right. Well, hopefully he can salvage that. I wish him the best because, damn it, he put his money where his mouth is. $38 million of his own money. But back to the location, I would call it chauvinism. Okay, we have all, you know, like if you're going to say the San Pedro Valley and you're going to show me Moab, better. You better be good because I don't want to see Tombstone in Monument Valley. That's ridiculous. Okay, to me. All right. Mm-hmm. Now the same thing happened on Geronimo. I think it was, who did Geronimo? Walter Hill. Walter Hill. And the story goes that he went down to the Chiricahuas and he said, "I don't like this. This is boring country." And so the next thing you know, you've got the Apaches in Navajo country, which it kind of gets to me, okay?
But it looked good.
But you said in the intro that I'm about authenticity, and I'm like, no, you know, okay, show me where it happened, okay? Another thing that just drives me nuts is filming, and then this is becoming worse and worse now, is that New Mexico started it with, we're going to give you rebates, $21 million if you come and film here. And Arizona thought, hey, screw them. We got the locations. Nobody can beat this. Well, Hollywood went right for New Mexico. Then it went to Calgary. Then it went to South Carolina. Then it went to Louisiana.
Sure, it's all about money.
And so now you've got the Magnificent Seven filming in Louisiana. Like, dude, this is getting a little bizarre. Now, a couple of people have pulled it off. Okay, the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, which, by the way, is a fabulous movie. I think it's the best thing best film Brad Pitt's ever.
It's a terrific.
It's so terrific. And so I was just recently in St. Joe, where in the house they've salvaged the house where Jesse James was actually shot. He's putting the picture and then shot, and there's a hole in the wall, etc. And they said they knew they were in trouble when they were getting ready to film that film because these guys from Hollywood showed up and they were measuring the house, and they said, oh, they're not going to film here. Well, I hope they film in Missouri. Well, they didn't film in Missouri. They filmed in Canada, but they pulled it off. I don't know how they did that with the train, and then it looks enough like Missouri where I'm fooled. Okay, I can live with that. That was really artistically well done. But to get back to that show, Wyatt Earp and the Cowboy War, they're filming allegedly at the OK Corral, and they're in St. Louis or something.
Wherever the tax incentives are. Now, we actually shot inside the OK Corral for our Wyatt Earp movie with Hugh O'Brien.
Yeah.
And we made a bogus story where he's going back to Tombstone in 1913, and he's 60 years old, which is about what Hugh O'Brien was at that time.
Right.
But he's finding Morgan Earp's illegitimate son. Well, that was our story twist in it that seemed to work. We had such fun there, though. Yeah. We really did.
Now, you just reminded me, David Wolper's Appointment with Destiny, they did Showdown at OK Corral. And Lauren Green of Bonanza fame, he was the narrator. And they actually went to Tombstone, and they took the wall out. If you drive through Tombstone today, there's a highway that goes up past the OK Corral, and they've erected this great big concrete wall so you can't see the original site. You got to go around to Allen Street, come in that way, and pay to get in to see the site. Now, they went to all the trouble to take that wall out, put dirt out all the way, and film on the exact spot, and they still got it wrong. You know why?
How?
Because there were two houses. There was the Harwood house on the corner. There was a house next to it, and then there was Fly's boarding house, where Big Nose Kate and Doc Holliday were rooming. And so I believe that fight happened because the Earps and Doc Holliday turned the corner at 4th Street and started to walk down Fremont, and Doc Holliday, who was given a shotgun and keep it under his hood, he goes, they're in my side yard. And he was already probably had a couple of stiff drinks, you know. And my take on that fight is, what's the moral? Do not take a drunk dentist to make a misdemeanor arrest. Okay, that's the problem. But anyway, they come in there. It's 18 feet wide. It's very narrow. Now, if you go there today, if you go to the OK Corral, they've erected a little iron fence to show the space. But when David Wolper filmed, they thought, we're going to get this right. It's on the exact spot. We're going to make it exactly as it happened. But they have this big space because that second house is missing. And so we have this kind of like football field, Sergei Leone,
because
the bad, the ugly showdown.
You
know, the guys are thinking they're 15 feet apart. No. This is a alley brawl. This is a brawl in an alley where the people could reach out and touch each other at the beginning.
So how did so many of them come out unscathed, like Doc Holliday, if they're that close?
He got grazed in the holster. Allegedly.
Well, I haven't seen that in the movies, though.
You know, it's when he says the famous line now, you know, you're a daisy if you do. Frank McLaurin was gut shot. Wyatt Earp said in his testimony that he, as it started to go south, Doc Holliday pulled that smoke wagon out, and the Cowboys, there was only 2 of them that were armed, okay? Clanton had been disarmed and had a bandage on his head, okay? And he's the one who started the whole thing, and he runs away, and that's why in Wyatt Earp and the Cowboy War, they're saying, he's a mob boss. No, he ran away from the fight. Wyatt Earp says a thing to Ike Clanton that I love, and this is on the record, okay? Ike Clanton is fearful that his cowboy friends are going to off him because he made a deal with Wyatt to take in the guys who robbed the Benson stage. And he said, I'll give you the reward, Wyatt Earp. I want the glory because I want to be elected sheriff. And so Doc Holliday mentions that he heard this, and so Ike just goes apoplectic. He's afraid they're going to off him. Okay, so he's going around. When the Earp show, all I want is 4 feet of ground, and he goes in every bar. Well, not every bar. There's 66 bars in a town of 10,000 people. What was the second most popular thing to do in Tombstone? Okay, so he's going in Kelly's wine room. Okay, we have this idea that the Old West was so primitive, they'd go, hey, give me the best you got, and they'd slide it down the bar, and they'd go, rot gut, right? You know? So Ike Clanton spent 2 hours in Kelly's wine rooms, okay? And I'm going, Kelly, that sounds like someplace on Scottsdale Road in Phoenix. Are you kidding me? So I go out to the Hayden Library. I thought, I got to find an ad for that, you know? What did they have? And so I go in this room, they put the white gloves on me, they bring out these newspapers on the cane poles, and it's a Tombstone epitaph, and I'm looking for ads in the summer of 1881 in fall, and whatever that is in the ad for Kelly's wine rooms would be what he had when he was there. So I can't find it. I go through August, nothing. I get into September, there's an ad for Kelly's Wine House on Allen Street, and here's what they had: 26 imported wines from Europe, their own microbrewery, imported beer from Colorado called Coors, and the favorite drink of the cowboys is a gin fizz toddy. Ooh, nice bouquet.
Well, that was a real upscale town at the time.
Oh yeah, Tony. They called it Tony. They had oysters brought in.
So I think that Tombstone, with Val and Kurt Russell and Sam, is the most accurate of all the Wyatt Earp movies. What's your opinion?
Well, now let's talk about Tombstone versus Wyatt Earp. Two dueling movies.
One very successful and one not.
Well, and so Kevin Costner had just come off of Dances with Wolves, 9 Academy Awards, a big thing, and he could do anything he wanted. He said he wanted to do a 6-part miniseries on the life of Wyatt Earp. And then he heard about this competing movie, and so he switched gears and took that 6-hour script and tried to jam it down. That's another story. Here's the part of the story I love, okay? In the Tombstone script by Kevin Jarre, brilliant, okay? The town is brand new. We had gotten into this era of Westerns where you go to the town and it's all, that's because they looked that way in the 40s, the 1940s, and so it's not accurate unless the towns are real old. No, it's brand new.
Yes.
And so they said that. So they go to Mescal, the set in Arizona, where they filmed part of Tombstone, and they built the Grand Hotel brand new, and it's Tony and it's spiffy and stuff like that. And do you know? I was talking to the producer, Bob Mizorowski. He said that when the movie that came in behind Tombstone was The Quick and the Dead with Sharon Stone, and they had to go through the town and age it. They went the other way. And no, you're absolutely right. It's a brand new town. Everything that's new is there. People in Cochise County did not like Tombstone because it was so modern, and that gets lost. And I think on that level alone, Tombstone wins hands down.
Oh. It really looked like you were there. They tried so hard, and you're right. The Kevin Jarre script was fabulous.
Yeah.
But the casting, too, was amazing. Kurt took it over to keep it going.
Now, I was there the day he got fired. And what happened was Kevin Jarre met Jeff Morey, and I think you know Jeff Morey as well as I do. And Jeff is one of the foremost experts on the OK Corral fight. He gave me the walk down step by step for my book on Doc Holliday, which is, I think, the best analogy of what happened second by second of that fight. So that's Jeff. Jeff joined forces with Kevin Jarre, and he called me and he said, would you like to read the script for Tombstone? And I always had the conceit I would write the script. I was like, yeah, okay, all right. So he gives me the scripts, and I've got to leave in the morning. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to read this script, I got to read it now. And I was mad, and I didn't want to read it. I read the first page. I read the second page.
Yeah.
I got 10 pages in, and I said, if they film this is the best version of these events I have ever read in my life. This is fantastic. Now we fast forward to June. They're on location. I live in Phoenix. I'm on a radio show in Scottsdale called Jones and Bo Show. And so I'm doing morning drive, yada, yada, yada. And Jeff says, hey, do you want to visit the set? And I said, I'd love to. And he says, well, today's the only day it can happen. And so I got off the air at 9 a.m.
Why was it the only day?
He said that they're filming the Baba Kumari, and if you want to get on the set, this is the day I can get you in. Mm-hmm. So I was babysitting my daughter. I got off the air at 9 a.m., put her in the car, drove to Tucson, picked up Jeff, drove down to Sonoyta, drove over to Elgin, drove out into this cattle guard, got out into the Tules and everything, came up into this little canyon. There's all these trucks up there and everything like that. I had a camera around my neck. And so we're going up in there, and there are all these people, and I go, God, that's Powers Boot. That's Kurt Russell over there. I go, oh, this is amazing. And so they're filming a scene where the cowboys are coming in. And so we go over and we take a down. And the AD comes up to me, the art director, and he goes, no photos. And I went, okay, dude, okay. I'm surprised he didn't take my camera, but he went, okay, all right, fine. So we go over and we sit on this little hill, and they're filming a scene where the Vendetta posse comes up to the cowboy camp in the mountains, and Wyatt Earp gets somebody mouths off to him, and he throws his hat to Doc. Doc catches it. He gets off, and he gets down, and they start fighting. They start duking it out. All right. We can just see. I can't hear. And there's Kurt Russell and Kevin Jarre. Kevin Jarre's the director. He wrote the script, and Kurt starts to do this Hollywood fight. You know, he's like, like that, and I can see Kevin Jarre goes, no. He goes, and I went, oh, and I knew, I could tell. I'm going, this is genius, because Wyatt Earp was a fisticuffs guy. He was he refereed fight. He was a fighter, fight guy, and so that he would do Queensberry is just fabulous. Okay, and so then Kurt would go no, and like that, and he would do it like that, and so they took a break, and so Kevin Jarre comes walking over to say hi to Jeff, and he sits down, and I look over, and I took a photo. He was fired that night, and they had to reshoot the movie. And Kurt Russell
been shooting for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, they've been shooting, and they couldn't use hardly anything because they said he was on sticks. There's this director,
the traditional way
that John on Ford sticks, and that's what he wanted to do. Well, now we're in the MTV period, and
it turned into a rock and roll western.
Yeah. But anyway, so that photo is a historic photo now, and I had no idea. You know, I went home and thought, oh, they're just going to rock this movie, and what they did, but that's another story.
Wow. Well, it's amazing that you were there on that particular day too. Yeah. It's still a great movie, and I know the other one came out later that summer. We did ours. It was sold to CBS on the premise that there's a Wyatt Earp movie coming out in the fall, and there's another one in the summer. One's called Tombstone. The other one is called Wyatt Earp. How would you like to have the quintessential television Wyatt Earp, Hugh O'Brian, in a movie to air between those two and take advantage of all that marketing that they're spending, that money?
Brilliant.
And we'll call it Wyatt Earp Return to Tombstone. And they said, you got a deal, Rob.
I never connected those dots. That is brilliant.
Oh, no, while I was at another company, just to digress a minute, Kevin was doing the Robin Hood movie.
Yeah.
And then Fox was doing a TV movie on Robin Hood called, with Patrick Bergen.
Yeah.
And I was at ITC where they had produced back in England these wonderful half hours with Richard Green, The Adventures of Robin Hood, on 35 millimeter in black and white. Well, I had come from a company where we had owned colorization at Hal Road Studios. We ended up making 3 of those Robin Hood movies, compiled using those black and white 35 millimeter beautiful prints. We colorized them. We added new music. I wrote a song for each one, and they shipped millions and millions of units, and Disney bought the 3 of them, the Robin Hood trilogy, for their channel. So that was great fun. So the Wyatt Earp, when we did that, I had already practiced, but we ended up bringing in a new cast and shooting new material too, in between Tombstone and the Kevin Costner Wyatt Earp.
Yes, I visited the set of Wyatt Earp. I visited both sets, actually. I may be one of the only people who have. And here's an interesting thing. So the word on the set was that Kevin got upstaged on his Robin Hood movie that Kevin Costner was in. What's his name?
Morgan Freeman.
No.
Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman. That he felt upstaged by him, and so that the outlaws and the cowboys in Wyatt Earp would not upstage him, and so they were dressed in browns. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. But I got to the movie site, which is Cook's Ranch outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and they spent $2.5 million replicating Dodge City, the main street. And you'd go in a bar, and they had like Victorian photographs hung out authentically with 5 faro tables and stuff. And I went outside and they had the stockyards built down there. And I said, "You spent $2.5 million on Dodge City. What did you do for Tombstone?" And he said, "Oh, we just moved over a street." And so, my comment was, you could rebuild my hometown of Kingman, Arizona on Bell Road in Phoenix for $2.5 million. That was so amazing to me that they spent that kind of money. But I think in the long run, I think Tombstone wins.
Mm-hmm. How accurate was Kevin's movie?
It was very accurate, and Dan Gordon did a very great job because they were going to do it as a miniseries. And both films are very accurate.
True West is such a fabulous magazine, one of the few that I can read cover to cover because every article is not just good, but it's the proper length. How did that first come about? The magazine was started in 1953.
Yes.
And has it changed much since you took it over?
Oh, God, yes. This is a magazine I read as a kid growing up in Kingman, Arizona, and I bought my copies down at Desert Drugs. My mother would be getting a prescription filled, and I'd run to the front of the store, and I would pick up my favorite issue of True West. And my interest really got piqued when my dad's idea, he had a gas station on Route 66, Al Bell's Flying A. And every summer, his idea of a vacation was to pile my mother and I in a 1957 Ford with a Continental kit on the back and drive backwards on Route 66 to the family farm in Thompson, Iowa.
Drive backwards?
Well, everybody, we were going eastbound on Route 66, and we met all the people westbound going to Disneyland and the beach, and they all had inner tubes in the top of the car, and they were wearing bikinis, and they're laughing, and we're Norwegians going to Iowa so we can eat 5 times a day.
There's no sense of humor in Norway?
It's very challenged, yes. And so we're on Route 66, man. This is the 50s, okay? And I would say world's largest buffalo, 1/2 mile. And I'm standing on the transmission hump in the back seat. And I go, "Hey, Dad, can we stop?" And we get into New Mexico, and it says, "Billy the Kid's grave, 53 miles. Dad, come on." I finally figured out he'd only stop for gas, food, oil, maybe open wounds. He wasn't going to stop because I asked him why, and he goes, "We have to make time, kid." You know, he was from that World War II guy.
We traveled too. I grew up in the 50s, and so we pulled an Airstream trailer with a 1949 Ford 2-door.
Yeah.
There were 5 of us in the car. My little sister was just a baby at the time, and my dad would stop at everything. If there was a roadside marker, we would stop and read it. If there was the Billy the Kid Museum, which was filled with fake stuff and some carved sandstone said Billy Kid, I remember. He really did that, and here's the sandstone in this museum. But we would stop and go in all those places. So I'm sorry you missed that, but obviously you've caught up on all that.
Well, see that, but here's what was the spark that ignited the flame that led me to here, okay? And that is, we were in Iowa, we were down at the Swensons eating for the 5th time, and don't get us anything, and out comes the food, you know. And so I said to my dad, "Hey, you got to give me one place on the way home." And he said, and I quote, "Well, we will, kid, if we have time." Well, I knew what that meant. We were going to go straight back to Kingman. He wasn't going to stop, okay? And I picked out a place. It was 43 miles east of Albuquerque, New Mexico, south side of the road. It was the Longhorn Museum. And as we shot by it going to Iowa, it said over 1,000 items of the Old West, including a photo of Billy the Kid. And so I looked on a map, and when we got to Santa Rosa, we were in the Club Cafe, And I
What are
figured
you,
it out.
like 9 or 10 years old?
Oh, 10 years old, yeah. And so we get back on the road, and I hatched a devious plan, and that is I started poking him. Every father has a weak spot. It runs from the ear down the shoulder. And so he's there passing, 15 trucks, and I'm going, come on, Dad, you promise. Come on, you promise me. And he's shaking me up, and he's going. And finally, he pulls into that dusty parking lot. He puts it in park. He looks in the back seat, and he goes, kid, you got 15 minutes.
But at least you're there.
Those are the most precious 15 minutes of my life. And so I go in there, and the place is just crammed full of, steer horns and guns and all kinds of things. And my grandfather had given me a quarter, and he was a farmer, and he said, buy something on the way home, kid. And so I'm in the buying mood, and I said, hey, how much for that flintlock rifle over there, over the bar?
More than a quarter.
And he goes, $100. And I go, God. I said, will you take a quarter? I was young, And I looked around, and I saw it. It said an authentic photo of Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. And Pat Garrett's got his hand on Billy the Kid's shoulder. And I'm going, wow, I knew enough about history because I read True West. Pat Garrett killed Billy the Kid, and he's standing there. I go, how much for the photo? Quarter. So I buy this real photo. We get back in the car. I don't even say a word. I'm studying this photo. And we shoot through Albuquerque down Central Avenue to the other side, out to past Laguna into New Mexico. It gets worse. Past Holbrook, Winslow, Flagstaff. Don't forget Winona. I'm in the back seat saying this whole thing. When I get home, I put it on my wall. I got it on my wall where I can look at it. I'm going to get a hat like that. I'm going to get a vest someday, just like that. And so we go to Desert Drugs. My mom had to go get a prescription. I go up in front, and I buy the latest issue of True West. I go out to the car, and on page 32, I discover the photograph I bought at the Longhorn Museum is a fake.
What a surprise.
It was taken
as a 10-year-old, I'm sure.
It was taken at a rodeo parade in Santa Fe in 1936, whatever. I am so mad that you can draw. I missed the Beatles and Ed Sullivan. I missed Watergate. Because I'm trying to find out what did they really do. And that led me to buying True West magazine. It was on its last legs in 1999.
Mm-hmm. And on its last legs, I know right now we're in a time where printed magazines are almost passé. I love still getting the hard copy of True West, especially in the current issue now as we speak, because I'm on the back page with how did all this happen to me or something.
Yeah.
What's that called?
It's called What History Has Taught Me. It's one of our most.
I was close.
It is one of the most popular features in the magazine.
Well, it was really popular at our house, I'll tell you that.
Good.
And my sister, my dad's long gone.
Yeah.
My little sister says, Dad would be so proud.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So that's a nice feeling, and I'm proud to have been included in your fine magazine. But you've gone quarterly, I think, haven't you?
Oh yeah. No, let's don't mince words here. It's an existential crisis. Magazines are disappearing. Our competitors, Wild West, went out of business, 6 months ago.
Montana, I think, is gone too.
Yeah, well, all the big ones, Playboy.
Life magazine years ago.
Yeah, Esquire, just the Rolling Stone. The list just goes on and on. And so we're in an existential crisis. I won't. I'll tell you what. If there's still magazines in 2025, and we're still in business, I'm going to have a kegger at my house, and you're invited.
You grew up kind of when I did, and on television, that was the heyday of the television westerns. What were some of the ones you remember?
Well, here's one, and this also contributed to me ending up buying True West magazine, and that is my grandmother was from an old ranching family down by Rodeo, New Mexico, if you know where that is, right on the line between Mexico and Arizona. And I used to go up there, and she'd tell how we were related to outlaws. And I loved it, man. She would tell about how outlaws would come in the middle of the night to their ranch, and they would steal a horse, but they'd leave a horse, and sometimes the horse they left was better than the other horse. And I just thought that was so cool. And I would go around, people would ask, we're related to outlaws, and my mother hated this. Because I was thinking of Bigfoot Wallace and John Wesley Hardin. We claimed relations to all those guys. And my mother was hearing, we're related to the Boston Strangler and Jack the Ripper, And so anyway, when they would go out on a date, my mom and dad, they would send me to my grandmother's house. And so it was a Thursday night, and they were going to the American Legion. But my favorite show was coming on. It was on ABC, and you might remember it. I asked my grandmother, "Can I turn the TV on?" And she was disappointed because she wanted to talk. But I had to see my show, and so I ran over and I turned it on just in time to hear this theme song. And you might sing it with me. You might remember. I think you're old enough.
What show are we talking about?
Wyatt Earp, Wyatt Earp, brave, courageous, and bold. Long live his fame, and long live his story, and long may
his glory. No, long live his glory, and long may his story be told.
Correct.
Did you know I had Johnny Cash sing the theme song for that when we did that movie, Wyatt Earp, Return to Tombstone?
That's fantastic. In the middle of that song, I saw my grandmother's hand come out from her chair, and she was shaking. And she says, Wyatt Earp was the biggest jerk who ever walked the West. And so I'm looking at the TV, right, which never lies. I'm looking at my grandmother I love, and I'm going, wow, somebody's not telling the truth here. And see, she was from Rodeo, New Mexico, which is about 90 miles from Tombstone.
So she met
in 19. No, she didn't meet him, but they were there, and they knew all the cowboys who hated the Earps. Mm-hmm. So she was coming from the story from that side. And
because they're the ones who were giving her these fresh horses.
Yeah, they were the ones that giving her fresh horses, exactly. And so that just blew my mind, and I thought, well, I've got to find out the truth about this. And so that's what really lit the fuse.
That's so fascinating. Yeah. And were you a subscriber of the earlier True West?
I bought it off the newsstand. And then, of course, the 60s happened, and I became, I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and I lied about that earlier. And so I became interested in rock and roll, and I kind of left the Old West behind me. But I would go to a Circle K or something for something, and I would see it there on the newsstand, and I thought, I could do something with that, because it was still being printed on pulp. And it was dwindling, and it was going down. And so when I really got interested, I decided, you know what, I think I can maybe save this magazine.
What was it that brought the love of Westerns back, not just to you, but to America and actually probably other countries as well, because it was dead?
Yeah. Well, everything is cyclical. If you want a new idea, read an old book. It's just, the more things change, they come back around. So there's always that cyclical, somebody goes, here's something new. Well, it's something that was from the 1930s or whatever. And the Western's been doing that now I've probably seen, you and I both probably seen 5 resurgences of, the Western's back, Unforgiven. We've never seen this before.
It's gone, it'll never come back. And then somebody like Taylor Sheridan comes along.
The genius of Taylor Sheridan is, I knew in the 70s, the West was really controversial then. I used to live in, when I was in Phoenix, I would go to Mr. Lucky's, and it was country upstairs and rock and roll downstairs. And I was a rock and roller, and my hair was a little over my ears. But if you had to go in that door and go down the ramp to get downstairs, and a cowboy saw you, he's going to kick your ass. Okay, that's just the law. Okay, and so it was very contentious times. And I knew intuitively that somebody was going to take that. Now, what I came up with was the Doper Roper. I created a cartoon character who was based on my kin from Kingman, who were ropers, and then he would be roping hippies,
And where was that first published, your cartoon, Doper Roper?
Doper Roper was in the Raz Review, which was a humor magazine that me and a childhood friend, Daniel Harshberger, created in 1972. And so one of the characters...
A radical time.
A very radical time. But I knew intuitively that somebody, and I was hoping it was going to be me, would create the plot twist to make it new, to take an old genre, Westerns, and make it new. And that damn Taylor Sheridan, he took that. See, what's so genius about it is the Indians, okay, they're powerful too, because they got the BIA, they got all of that stuff going. That show, I just can't say enough about it, because he took all those old elements, reshuffled the deck, and said, hey, here's something new.
And he keeps doing it, and successfully. It's amazing. Were you a fan of his earlier show where he was an actor, The Sons of Anarchy.
I thought Sons of Anarchy was great. I think Hell or High Water is just magnificent.
Wonderful.
And the genius of Taylor Sheridan is that he just keeps spinning this out, and it's a wonderful thing.
His other shows, I mean, he is like an octopus, and each tentacle is successful. He has made Paramount Plus the go-to place.
Yes,
so without him, what is it?
I just remembered what I wanted to tell you about that damn Taylor Sheridan, and that is this. I'm a hat nut. Okay, I love
the crease in the top.
I probably own. It's embarrassing. My wife's going to kill. I'm probably own 150 hats. I'm a hat collector.
I thought I had 30, which I thought was a lot, but
I collect hats. I got all my grandfather's hats. I got a studio just full of hats. You need to come see it. Okay.
I'm coming for your kegger.
You coming for the kegger with the magazine? You got it. You can stay at my house. So I got my best hat done at Greeley Hat Works. Okay, in Greeley, Colorado. Mm-hmm. I was on my way to Iowa, just like
you were stopping at the roadside monuments and the museums because you were driving yourself.
I'm turned into your father. And I can't get the car out of third gear without pulling over. And my kids are like, "Do we have to stop, Dad?" You know, and I'm like, "No, we have to stop at every hysterical marker."
Well, and I'm one more than that because not just at the markers and the museums. I go, a thrift store. I'm
sorry, that's insane. That's a thing. You must
well,
not get...
I've found some wonderful stuff. I remember one time we were up in Washington State and great memorabilia and stuff, and I saw this children's cowboy belt with fake rhinestones in it and a tip set that was made out of, I don't know, some sort of cheap metal, and it was $3. And so I looked at, it's like for a tiny waist for a little kid.
Yeah.
I took my hat off and I put it as a headband.
Yeah, very clever.
Went, I'll take this, and they got so mad that they hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Because it dressed this beat up old hat really well.
Yeah.
So, you find those things, but if you don't look, if you don't stop,
you don't find them. Well, there's virtue in either one. And so I went to Greeley Hat Works, got a fabulous hat. They have my head on record. They measure your head every little nook and cranny, so you have this custom thing. And so I called them up, this is probably a year ago, and I said, "Hey, I want to order a new hat." And I said, "Sorry, we're backed up a year and a half." And I went, "Why?" He goes, "One word."
Taylor Sheridan?
No, that's 2 words.
Oh, okay. Yellowstone.
Yellowstone was the word at the time. But that damn Taylor Sheridan has messed up my hat order. Well, damn you.
I tell you, I'm happy about that. And let me ask you about one other thing, because another magazine, not quite a competitor because it handles and covers different things, is Cowboys and Indians.
Right.
It seems like to me that has turned into a woman's fashion magazine with all these great Southwestern looks and ads for women.
Well, that's not a mistaken identity there. That is what's happening over there. And there's been an internal shift, new owners.
Brown sold it.
Yes, Greg Brown sold it. And they've made that conscious decision to go that way.
It must be working for them.
Well, I watched American Cowboy come out of nowhere and go up to 1.5 and then go right out the other side. Somebody in Boulder bought it and they thought, you know what? Let's change. Let's tell people how to become a cowboy. Let's have illustrations.
So maybe they're losing their base.
Not maybe.
Oh, okay.
No, and this is true. I need to own this. We're all on this magic carpet ride that's moving, and people are falling off all the time, and whatever's.
I know you're adapting and always have been aware of the internet, and I like to tease Robbie with calling it the World Wide Web, which is an old-fashioned term, but I'm an old-fashioned guy. You've adapted to that.
He said. Unredeemable. I'm so sorry.
He's turning red now. He's so embarrassed for me, but what the heck?
There you go.
So you've been a part of that shift, and you've had your Bob Boze Bell cowboy moments and stuff where you give nice
truest moments,
historic tidbits.
Yeah,
that's what they are, tidbits.
Yep.
And that's been successful.
Yeah.
Have you had much success in gaining subscribers for the magazine through the internet?
The answer is no. And
Why is that?
We need to figure out how to make digital pay.
Mm-hmm.
We have a huge footprint online. Okay, 300,000 people visit every day. Lots and lots of activity and people sharing and that kind of a thing. But so far, we have not been able to monetize that. Okay, and that's for this guy over here to figure out.
Yeah, part of it is, and he's helped me. When we first started A Word on Westerns, everybody's watching them on their phone, and they needed to be like 3 minutes or 4 minutes, and that's the maximum time. Now, this is 12 years later, everybody is watching them on their big screen, and they tell you that. The analytical breakdown that you get from YouTube is fascinating. 50% of our views now are people watching it on TV, so they're going, these interviews are great, but they're too damn short.
Wow.
And then RJ told me, he says, Dad, on YouTube, if it's over 8 minutes, they put commercials in it. So we've had hundreds of shows up that were short, generating nothing, and we're just working still 30, 40 hours a week on the show to deliver it. But now they're longer, and so it's starting to pay off because the audience is more satisfied with these longer shows. So your tidbits, if you would come up with a theme for them and tie them together and make them at least 8 minutes, you would see the revenue start to trickle in, I think.
Well, see, now that was worth the trip down here. I was questioning this all the way on the plane and parking in East Economy and driving and schlepping my bags. And you just made it worthwhile. Thank you, sir.
Good. You didn't know that. I mean, see?
Having
so a 27-year-old son was really a big plus.
We started at 30 minutes, and I said, that's too long. The attention span's too short. So then we went down to 16, and now you're saying it needs to be,
Right.
And there we go again. Just when you think you got on top of it, it goes around.
Well, and they change it. Initially, it was 10 minutes, and we went, wow, how are we going to do that? But now, like this conversation, it needs to be 30 minutes because that's what people want now.
Yeah.
And you're so interesting. We might even do 2 shows because you've got stuff that is interesting for me. I may have given you that little germ of information, but to hear your story about traveling, it brings back wonderful memories for me too about doing it with my family. And we were close. We still are. We were very, very lucky. The Airstream didn't have a bathroom, so like you're talking about driving and the stops that your dad would make. I need to go to the bathroom, and Mom would pass over the potty for the back seat on the floor.
Oh, geez.
And it's open the windows. Oh my gosh.
Oh, geez.
So it's changed a lot.
Yeah. Thank God.
I'm fascinated about your hat collection.
Yeah.
Seems like you wear mostly this hat that you've got on wherever you go.
Well, this is my show hat, but I have a traveling hat. I also have I've got 150 hats. Okay, so I'm not hat challenged. I've got, and I love hats, and I love hats so much. That's why I hate bad hats in westerns.
Oh, and this Wyatt Earp show.
It's on Netflix. It's called Wyatt Earp and the Cowboy War. Okay. And they came to us at True West Magazine and said, would you help us co-produce this? So they asked me who they should get for talking heads. And I gave them all the talking heads guys that I know, Paul Andrew Hutton, Jeff Gwynn, Casey T. Patriller, Mark Lee Gardner, John Bosnicker. And every time they talk, the show is golden because those are the best guys. Those are the minted guys that know. If you want to know about Wyatt Earp and his life, they're going to tell you. Okay. And then they go to reenactments and they're showing Ike Clanton as a mob boss, which is that's ridiculous. Okay. I think they're confusing Don Corleone with Don Knotts.
Well, they want something that's going to hook in an audience.
I know.
What drives me crazy, you talk about your wonderful hat collection, is that I don't mind the reenactments. I mean, some of that is a little bogus, like your Billy the Kid with Pat Garrett's hand on his shoulder photo. It's kind of like that. But the hats seem to come from Kmart. And I watched that first episode, and I thought it was interesting, and I'm learning something. I can't get past those hats.
I'm with you. And Clanton was wearing a 1972 Resist All Bull Rider flying taco hat. Okay, that did not exist in the Old West. And it would be like if you were watching a documentary on Dillinger, and they had Dillinger wearing a Yankee baseball cap backwards, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a 30s kid. I'm 30s, man. I'm 30." No, you're not.
Kind of like that.
It's exactly like that.
It's disappointing.
It's offensive to those of us who love good hats.
Let me ask you about that then, because they brought you in to help.
Yeah, they didn't ask me that.
Authenticity, and I see wonderful photos in some of the flashbacks and the talking heads that blend into the reenactments. And in those photos, man, it's got the hats and the wardrobe that these real cowboys wore. Didn't anybody look at those?
Well, what you have is I call them tourist westerns. Okay, you tap any stranger on the shoulder at the Fort Worth airport, and you say, "Hey, do you know about Western?" Yeah, I do. I saw the Searchers, man. I saw it on the original thing. Could you make a Western? Oh yeah, I know how that story goes. And then they're wearing hats like this, and I go, dude, you are crazy. They never wore hats like that. Now, the younger people are probably thinking we're nuts. We are. On this topic.
We're serious.
But we love it. We love it, and we want it to be right.
Bob, I love hearing these stories, and it sounds like our travels together, although my dad stopped a little bit more often than yours.
God bless your dad.
We got to see the West.
Yeah.
Before it was overrun, it seems like.
Well, I don't know. I still love a road trip, and I never take the freeways. I always take the back ways. And if I'm on that back road from Daddle over to Alamogordo, over to Socorro, and I meet one car in an hour and the sun's coming up and I'm on a destination, nothing gets better than that.
No. Well, I'll tell you, I love going on these back road histories with you, and I hope we can do it again. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.